How Iran is winning a war where it should not suppose to win. The United States military has not lost a single battle in this war. Not one. Every airstrike hit its target. Every missile landed where it was supposed to. Every operation. Precise, calculated, overwhelmingly powerful. Right now, one of the most advanced aircraft carriers ever built is sitting in the Persian Gulf, a floating fortress, a symbol of unmatched military dominance. On paper, this isn't even a contest. And yet, Iran is winning, not in the way most people think, not through battlefield victories, not through superior weapons, but in the way that actually decides wars. Time, money, pressure, political will. Iran is slowly, methodically grinding down the most powerful military on earth without needing to win a single direct fight. And that should make you pause, because if a weaker power can do that, then something fundamental has changed about how wars are fought and how they're lost. To understand this, you have to step back, not just a few months, not just to the start of this conflict. You have to go back decades. In the 1980s, Iran fought a brutal war against Iraq. It lasted 8 years. Entire cities were destroyed. Hundreds of thousands of people were killed. Chemical weapons were used. It was one of the most devastating conflicts of the modern era. And after all of that, nothing changed. The borders stayed the same. 8 years of war and no meaningful victory. For most countries, that would be seen as a failure. For Iran, it became a lesson, a turning point, because they realized something critical. If you fight a stronger enemy on their terms, you will lose. So instead of trying to match stronger militaries, tank for tank, jet for jet, missile for missile, they changed the game entirely. They asked a different question. What if we never give our enemy something they can fully destroy? What if we don't concentrate our power, but spread it? Imagine trying to fight an opponent, but instead of standing in front of you, they exist everywhere at once. You hit one target, and 3 more appear somewhere else. You suppress one threat, and another one emerges from a completely different direction. That's not a traditional army. That's a network, an ecosystem. And that is exactly what Iran built over the last 40 years. Influence in Lebanon, presence in Iraq, alliances in Syria, pressure points in Yemen, each one connected, each one flexible, each one capable of acting independently, but all aligned toward the same strategic goal. So when conflict happens, you're not fighting one front, you're fighting many at the same time. Now here's where it gets even more important. Iran is not trying to defeat the United States militarily. That would be impossible in a conventional sense. Instead, Iran is targeting something far more fragile, political will, because wars are not decided by who has more weapons. They're decided by who is willing to keep paying the cost. And Iran understands something deeply uncomfortable. The United States can win battles and still lose wars. Because eventually the question isn't, can we keep fighting? It becomes, is it worth it? Look at the economics of this conflict. Every missile launched by the United States costs millions. Every defensive system used to intercept incoming threats costs even more. Meanwhile, many of the weapons used against them, drones, basic missiles, are far cheaper. That imbalance is intentional. It forces a situation where one side is spending massively just to maintain control, while the other side spends far less to keep the pressure alive. Over time, that gap matters, because resources are not infinite. Stockpiles take time to rebuild. Equipment wears down. Personnel get exhausted. And the longer the conflict drags on, the heavier that burden becomes. We've seen this pattern before. In Vietnam, the United States dominated militarily, battle after battle, overwhelming victories. And yet the war was lost, because the other side didn't need to win. They just needed to endure. In Iraq, the initial invasion was fast, decisive, but what followed was years of instability, endless engagement, no clear finish line. In Afghanistan, the same lesson repeated itself. A superpower with unmatched military strength, unable to secure a lasting outcome, because the opponent wasn't trying to win quickly. They were simply waiting, patiently, relentlessly. Iran studied all of this very carefully, and they built a strategy around one simple principle. If you can't defeat a stronger enemy, outlast them, make the conflict slow, make it expensive, make it uncertain, until staying becomes harder than leaving. And this is where things become even more complex, because war is not just about fighting, it's about objectives, clear, defined goals. Iran's objective is straightforward: survive, maintain influence, apply pressure. But the United States, like in many past conflicts, faces a more difficult question. What does victory actually look like? Without a clear answer, military power becomes directionless. You can strike targets, you can deploy forces. But if there's no clear end state, the conflict stretches and stretches and stretches. Meanwhile, Iran continues applying pressure in multiple ways, not just militarily, but economically, strategically, psychologically. Key global trade routes sit within reach of disruption. Energy markets react to instability instantly. Even small escalations can ripple outward, affecting prices, supply chains, and global confidence. And that creates pressure far beyond the battlefield, pressure that governments can't ignore. There are also vulnerabilities in the region that are rarely discussed openly: critical infrastructure, essential systems, things that entire populations depend on, and that cannot be easily replaced. The mere existence of those vulnerabilities creates leverage, not because they are attacked, but because they could be. And in geopolitics, the possibility of disruption is often just as powerful as the disruption itself. So now everything comes down to a choice: de-escalate and accept a political cost, or escalate and risk becoming even more deeply entangled. History suggests that escalating against this kind of strategy doesn't resolve the problem. It amplifies it, because the more you commit, the harder it becomes to step back. And that brings us to the real question: not who is stronger, not who has more weapons, not even who is winning right now, but something much more fundamental. What does winning actually mean? Because one side already has a clear answer, and the other side is still trying to figure it out. And in a conflict like this, that difference in clarity might matter more than anything else.